Hello everyone, Xandero Gaming coming at y'all with another video. And in today's video, I have done a lot of work this morning. I know I'm super far behind on all of the tournament results that I like doing for the local online and local game store tournament scene for the Union Arena trading card game. And in our last video, I went through the 19th, so getting about 10 days worth of data. And in this video, we are in for a doozy because I am 3 weeks behind about. So this is going to give us a lot of data. I have gone through all of these different tournaments coming from the 21st. All the way up into the current day. So everyone has been doing a really good job of posting their tournaments on the exburst.dev site, and I could not be happier about it. I want to shout out all of these, stores that have been doing all of the tournaments, and there have been a lot of new ones on here, right? So this has been really cool. One thing to note that a couple of the tournaments throughout this list did have some pretty decent showings. I went through and wrote out most of the ones that had a lot. Like I said, if you had a tournament that had at least 6 people, I'm taking your top 3. If you didn't post one that had at least 6, I think there's only 2 or 3 tournaments throughout all of these tournaments for the last 3 weeks that did not have that. So fortunately I did not take those, but everything that had those above it, I took the top 3. And then if you had a tournament that was over 12, I took the top 4. And in the one really big tournament that we had in this slew of tournaments here, which was, looking at my notes, was the Draw 3 case tournament. This one was the biggest tournament, and it was, let's see, 28 total players. So I did take the top 6 out of that just to give us some kind of, things to look at. But one thing to also note, this is hundreds of players, right, that I'm pulling this data from, and it is going to be a lot of different decks in this topping pie chart that I love to do for everyone here. But let's just get to the pie chart. Let's stop lollygagging around. I just want to show the pie chart in full here so everyone can kind of see just what it looks like, right? There is 28 unique different decks that have topped here on the pie chart. Just an absolute ton of them. There's so many. You can see some of the big winners here from the last 3 weeks, which are no surprise, right? Blue JJK in the purple codegeass deck, not going anywhere at all. Following up behind them is the blue swordartonline decks and the green Bleach Toshi deck and purple Bleach deck, which is really cool because you can see that is a pretty interesting thing to come up, because we did have the green Bleach stuff come into play. But let's get into the numbers all the way, right? So in first place, we do have 15 different decks that top that were blue JJK. That is quite a lot, considering that's a little over about 24 days, so a little over 3 weeks between these time periods. We've had the Black Clover and the Bleach decks all kind of take off. And with that being said, I was kind of surprised to still see the purple codegeass and the blue JJK decks show out, but it just goes to show that in a tournament setting, these decks are going to always be two that shine, just being very consistent decks in what they do. And I don't want to really touch on them too much, other than saying that for anyone that is only listening and not watching the video on the pie chart, which I am doing this video on vacation. I had a lot of spare time this morning, spending the last 2 hours compiling all the data from all the tournaments, like I said, throughout that time period. I'll stamp the time period so everyone that wants to check out the different tournaments can do so. But yes, blue JJK is the top deck with 15 tops throughout this time period. Purple codegeass coming up in second place with 10, definitely being the 2 most powerful decks in the format. Now, coming down, there is a slew of other decks that got a lot of types. As you can see here, I want to expand this data just to show everyone. This is probably a better way to go about it. And then we'll go back to the pie chart. I have every deck that, you know, got a top throughout here listed. That's why we have so many different ones. But what I want to, you know, just go through is all of these. So Blue Sword Art Online came in 3rd place with 8 tops, which I think it is just showing that it is the premier, you know, aggro deck in the game. Now, I don't think it is quite as consistent as some of the other decks, but I do think that it is, you know, one of the more powerful ones where you can get, like, you know, 4 to 6 swings pretty average in the deck on the turns that you see that. But in 3rd place is Sword Art Online, Blue Sword Art Online with 8 tops. And then in 4th place, we have 3 different decks, all getting 7 tops throughout this time period, and that is going to be Green Bleach, Purple Bleach, and the Yellow Onepunchman Saitama. Really cool to see these 3 decks do so well. It's just I am super happy for Green Bleach players, right? Like the Toshi lovers are getting really supported with a new Toshi card, and then also throwing in the Kenpachi package in these lists for sure. I do need to note that there was also, I think, a green Bleach deck that was running like a Toshi but more normal Yamato Unohana package. I did just throw this into Green Bleach because that deck list was very, very interesting, and I could have just, you know, thrown it down here at the bottom, but I wasn't really sure what that person wanted to call the deck or anything like that, so I did not add it, you know, through down here as one of these 1-tops. I threw it in with the Green Bleach Toshi because it did have Toshi in it, but I will like to say that one of those deck lists were very unique and very different from the other ones outside of those, right? But the Purple Bleach getting some very much well-needed, you know, support with a new Ichigo, and you can split these decks into different packages, running some of the other new purple cards. And then Yellow Onepunchman Saitama, I think, is just one of the premier decks in the game as well. It's not going anywhere. I do believe that this deck is going to be one of the ones that you see in competitive play for the long haul, because it just has so many good tools and a good game closer. So those 3 decks, Green Bleach, Toshi kind of package, Purple Bleach, and Yellow Onepunchman Saitama, bringing up 4th place with, you know, those 7 different toppings. But coming into the pie chart information again, there's just so many decks, right? So those are all the ones that got 7. And then bringing up in 5th place tie are 2 decks that both got 6 tops each, which is Blue Bleach and Red Black Clovers, the Black Bull package. Now, I am calling this one the Red Black Bulls package because I do think that this listing is very different than the Red Black Clover 3 Ladies package. And if it was just Red Black Bulls focused around Asta and then them bringing in maybe a Noelle or a Mimosa, I consider that still the Red Black Clover Black Bulls package. But very cool to see this deck performing well as also. And then just Blue Bleach, you know, splashing onto the scene here. I think that a lot of people are really, really excited about this deck, and I do think that this deck can match the consistency and power of some of these other decks that we've seen in the mainstay, you know, Blue JJK, Purple Code, you know, those decks that have been around a while, Purple Bleach. But I do think the Blue Bleach deck has a lot more room for different build paths for people to, you know, play different cards in the deck profiles of their videos and or their deck list. And it is a hard deck to play. It's not as straightforward as some other decks. So I think that that is why this deck maybe doesn't do, hasn't done as well. But I think it will be a, you know, very strong contestant in the meta for sure. All right, going back to the info on the pie chart. So we had those bringing up 5th place. In 6th place is a bunch of decks that got 4 tops. There was no tie for 5th, but a lot of decks that got 4, which is a good thing, right? We have Yellow Bleach Bambi, Red Black Clover 3 Ladies, Yellow Demon Slayer Brother Sister combo deck. That is the Tanjiro deck. Yellow Sword Art Online Goddess deck, a green Codegeass Suzaku deck, and green One-Punch-Man Saitama. So a lot of decks bringing up 6 different decks, all getting 4 tops throughout these tournaments. I think that this just goes to show, I think that these are like a mixed pack. All these decks with 4 and 3 wins just show, a very good split of how all these different decks can do well. One thing that is pretty exciting is seeing yellow Bambi, the yellow Bleach, the Bambietta builds, sneaking in, heat wins here and there. I think this is a good, strong stun deck that you can see coming out into the meta for Union Arena now that Bleach Volume 2 has its cards. And I think that this may be a surprise deck for a lot of people, maybe seeing it come up in tournaments and then not knowing how to play against it. Maybe why the yellow Bambi decks have done so well, right? The red Black Clover, 3 ladies in red deck that I am terming it. I love this deck. It is really, really strong. It is really high rolly though. I do think that if you see the certain event that lets you search and get the AP back, if you see a lot of those early, you will just destroy your opponent. But the deck does have an issue, even though it has so many searchers. That card is so important in the deck. And I think that your opponent can see some of the plays you're going to do to come straight into this and try to play certain BP bodies against this deck to where you can try to block out and not always have to block with, your strongest character each time. But this deck can be very oppressive if they, are rolling on you and just seeing their curves. The red Black Clover Noel Mimosa deck is really strong. The yellow Demon Slayer brother-sister combo deck getting the 4 tops. Showing that it is a very consistent, very powerful, aggro deck as well, right? We got so many good aggro decks in this game at the moment, and it is still one of the, best ones, maybe just behind the blue SAO deck. The yellow SAO Goddess slash Knights deck, I made this one Goddess slash Knights, and then also just yellow SAO Knights. I separated these lists because the yellow SAO Goddess deck is definitely a deck on its own that brings in some package of the Knights into it. This is definitely a big surprise deck. I love this deck. I really did not think that it would perform as well as it does, but I think that this deck is showing its power. I thought that taking your life would be such a detriment, but we are seeing here that people love playing this deck. It's a very fun deck for you to play with and to play against, and it shows a lot of skill from the players. And then just green codegeass, Suzaku, and green One-Punchman Saitama being those big build 'em up green decks. Just doing what they always do, trying to put a lot of damage on your opponent. Suzaku getting there a little earlier than Saitama, but we can see that the state of the game is moving to a more either you're going full control or full aggro, or just being super consistent between the top 2 decks. And I think that these green decks are really struggling in the state of the game at the moment, with all the other colors just having so much more to offer than what the green decks do at the moment. That doesn't mean that I am getting off the green train. Everyone knows I'm a green player, and I do love my green decks. So still awesome to see that these decks were able to get out some tops. But that is that second tier of all of those decks getting 4 tops. Let's go back to the info on the pie chart. Hopefully you guys like this video. Like I said, I could have done a better job if I was at my house, but I wanted to get this information out here for everyone. I know this is not the most interactive or flashy video, but I needed to get this stuff out. I'm going to do a more detailed video of just doing the tops, all the decks that won from all these tournaments. That'll be a smaller pie chart, but I love doing this pie chart for everyone playing the game, so you can just see just how viable every deck is in the game. I think if we just only showed what top, all the tournaments, then we would only get, maybe, random entries here and there. And I like to show just what the state of the game really looks like, what you'll be most likely seeing, and it is a ton of different stuff, right? Coming down here in the 6th place tie, wherever we're at, it doesn't really matter. Just 3 wins each for yellow One-Punchman, Esper Sisters, and then green Black Clover 3 costs. So this one it's very interesting. The green Black Clover 3 costs, right? I did not rank this deck very high on my stats for the deck, just giving it a straight grade, because I do still believe that this deck is a, you either see your pieces and you high roll. Like, this deck is crazy fast. You need to know what this deck does. The red the green Black Clover 3-cost deck is very, very, very strong, and you need to look out for it. It is such a strong deck. It can get down fast. It only needs 3 energy to see all the stuff it does, but you do need to, you know, stack your deck in a certain way to see the stuff that comes out. But definitely a deck to look out for. I think if you want a deck that can, you know, just do some really crazy things really, really fast, then I think you should definitely look into the green 3-cost Black Clover deck, because it is a really fun, low to the ground, just, you know, destroy your opponent if you see the stuff and they don't have any blockers out, right? And then just the yellow One-Punch-Man Esper Sisters being a strong deck, but it takes a good pilot to play this deck because the lists are always, you know, a very technical deck. There's a lot of ways to misplay with this deck. And then bringing up the ends here, we have a lot of different decks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different decks that got 2 tops each. And I'm going to run through these pretty quick. If I think I need to touch up on something, I will. I'll just give a little stat each for them. So yellow JJK Megumi is an aggro deck. It managed to get 2 tops throughout the last couple weeks, which is really, really cool. Gone and Friends did manage to get 2 tops throughout this tournament. These tournaments for the last couple weeks, being a very versatile, fun deck that you can play. Megumi being a definitely very aggro, high rolling deck. If you see your pieces, you can definitely pop off. The green SAO deck, which I think we probably need to talk about that one a little bit more. I just want to, you know, go through the list real quick. Yellow SAO Knights managed to get 2 tops. Purple Black Clover Dark Triad is another big surprise that managed to get 2 tops throughout these couple weeks. Red One-Punch-Man Speedo Sound Sonic, another aggro deck, managing to get 2 tops. And then my boy Kurapika, 2 players managing to get tops while I was gone. Really love to see this. Really, really good. Just still, you know, probably the game is getting too fast for Kurapika to be able to compete with the consistency that all the decks have. Red One-Punch-Man Speedo Sound Sonic is a little more fragile than all the other aggro decks in the game at the moment, so can't explain why the other 3 do a little bit better. The Purple Black Clover Dark Triad deck is definitely a deck you need to watch out for. It's way more consistent than I thought it would be. This is definitely something that, you know, I was sleeping on when I did my breakdown of the Black Clover set, and I thought that this deck may show up, you know, every now and then, and it definitely has with 2 tops here. You can just straight up lose to this deck if you don't know how to manage getting rid of their bodies and trying to press the state of the game before they get to that alternate win condition. But the green SAO deck is definitely a disappointment, right? I mean, a lot of people had high hopes for Green Sword Art Online, and it seems to be getting pushed out in popularity. Not just popularity, but, you know, in the amount of people playing it and the amount of tops that it's getting, it is a little sad to see that so many people were excited. I think that the play style for Green SAO is just not the play style that a lot of people want to do here in North America, right? Because we've seen this deck really wreck it in Japan, and we do get more support in Volume 2 for the deck. I think that will help it be a little easier to play, but it is still, you know, a really, really strong deck. It could just be that a lot of people were on the deck whenever it first came out. So maybe the deck was a little burnout, but I don't think that that's the case in unionarena, right? Like, people have their favorite decks that they're going to keep playing, like your purple codes, your blue JJKs, your Toshi decks, and they're not going anywhere. But to see the green sort of online deck maybe not stand out as much has probably been a disappointment for me and a lot of other people, right? Those are all the decks that managed to get 2 different tops. I know this is a long video, but I want to cover all this stuff for everyone here, and I appreciate everyone hanging out with me for this long and not just looking at the pie chart. But we do have a lot of decks sneaking in one of tops throughout these tournaments. One Demonslayer Red Trio, that is the Inosuke deck, you know, where you run any of the 3 trio from the show, and it can really pop off. And I think that that one actually won the tournament that it was at in the locals. Like I said, I'm going to do another video that goes over all the topping deck lists instead of just, you know, the tops that I did here, but winning decks and the deck list. I just want to get this information out for you guys. Yellow JJK Gojo managed to sneak in a top, which I love to see. That Gojo is awesome, and it gets more support. So if you're looking to, you know, start picking up your Gojo cards now to build a deck, it's probably the time to do it so you can get used to doing what the deck wants to do. We did have a red codegeass Academy deck sneak in and get a top one in one of these tournaments, which is really, really cool. A green SAO Yuki deck, which is awesome. You know, Yuki is a really fun deck that you can play. I think that is a little too fair, and that's why it's not as strong, but that is one of the best parts about Union Arena Trading trading card game, you get to just play whatever deck you want to play, and you can top in your tournaments. Maybe not in a huge tournament, but in your local tournaments for sure. Everything is super viable, and I would even say if you want to take it to a big tournament, most decks are viable. And you can see here with the 28 different topping lists. The purple Demonslayer Daki brother sister deck did get a top, which is really, really cool. It did run the demon package in it, which is a solid package from that set, the purple Demonslayer demons, and just deciding to use the brother sister combo to, you know, get instead of going with, you know, moves on is essentially what they were doing there, right? I know this has been a long video. I know it has been a while since I've made a video for y'all, and this is not typically the quality of video I would normally do, but I had the time while on vacation. Like I said, I'll be back in town in my normal routines, hopefully tomorrow or Tuesday, and I can start getting all these videos back out for y'all. But this was a lot of work, a lot of data going into the video. I'll be sure to link in the description this pie chart so everyone can kind of see, and I can maybe, you know, put in the description exactly how many players this is. It is well over, I think, 200 players, what all these lists are coming from, because it is the last 3 weeks of all of our local, you know, game stores and local Discord servers all uploading their tournament results. If I had to summarize this, we have seen, you know, the same decks that we've seen do really, really well, and we have seen some of the new cards from these previous sets, the, you know, Bleach Volume 2, bringing life back into purple, blue, yellow, green. All the colors of Bleach, I think, are really, really viable now, and you can, you know, build any color in Bleach and feel really, really strong and happy about what you're doing. So I think that this is something to be excited for all these other Volume 2 decks, for everyone that is looking for a Volume 2 to come out for their IP. Keep your heads up. Hopefully we get a lot of them, and you can see that they do a lot for the game, because these Bleach decks have all gotten a boost and have are most of them all showing out on the pie chart. But also just seeing the two main big decks, the purple codegeass and the blue JJK, are still staying the strongest, most consistent decks, but I do not think in an oppressive way where they're unbeatable. I don't think anyone feels like any of these decks are unbeatable. They just managed to be, you know, the most consistent, and I think also the most popular decks as well. But that is a pie chart. I really appreciate everyone sticking with me on the channel. We finally made it to 300 subs, and I could not be happier or more excited about it. I'm going to work on, you know, getting back to doing a ton of videos. Like I said, just a lot of life stuff going on with vacation and my house getting worked on, and just a ton of different things. But I'm going to keep making these videos. I'm having so much fun with the channel. This is the complete pie chart breakdown for the state of the meta in the Union Arena trading card game. If your deck was not on here, then what are you doing, right? Go play in your local game stores. Go into the Discord servers. Get the deck that you like the most and find a way to make it top in a tournament. And even if it's just your local tournament, if you upload it to the exburst.dev site, I will cover it. Like I said, I covered every single tournament that happened from the stated time period that I will put in the description below. So a little over 3 weeks. If you perform well in your locals, you will be able to put your deck on the pie chart here. But let me know what you guys think about the state of the Union Arena trading card game in the description below. Please leave the video a like and subscribe to the channel. This is Xanderreal Gaming. I appreciate it, everyone. Thank you very much. Peace.